together. He's recently been up at the Fields of Healing in Byron Bay. He's now joined with us, but there's a beautiful synergy and connection back into Healing Our Spirit Worldwide, which he was one of the original keynote speakers at. So it's kind of coming in this loving full circle. And I'd like just to share the stage with Chief Phil Lane before we get back into the music program. Now, just to sort of let you know, after the music performance, we will then activate the Living Library, and we've got the Common Ground ladies from Central Australia coming to tell their story, and it's a really beautiful, loving one. So there's all lounges and couches set up there for after the performance at 12 o'clock. So Chief Phil Lane to the stage.
Mitakiapi, my very, very beloved relatives of our beloved human family, I want to first of all give great thanksgiving to be here standing on the unsurrendered, unceded land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, of the great indigenous peoples of Australia. We stand here in the oldest living culture in the world, right here, right here. And I want to give thanksgiving for the strength of your elders and your ancestors through even King George III in 1788 when he gave this completely insane thing about terras nullius. You have never surrendered. You have kept coming. It's been such a joy and honor to be with Chief Harry Walker in Tabulum. It's the first place we went to ask permission to walk on your sacred and wonderful lands. And it was so strange because my father always used to tell me, he said, son, he always wanted to go to Australia. He said you had good horses here, great horses. But I didn't know when I was going to Tabulum that it was the indigenous Australians from there that trained the horses of the Light Brigade that gave Australia one of its greatest victories in history. But they're never mentioned. So I know when my father was saying they have good horses here. And I know who trained those horses, the indigenous peoples here of Australia. And I see so wonderfully as I listen to Uncle Magpie at this great gathering at Byron Bay, that these sacred prophecies that promised after a long spiritual wintertime that we would arise, is happening today. These prophecies promised after 500 years, we would spiritually arise and help change the entire face of this Mother Earth. And it's happening now, and I believe it will continue to happen until finally we find peace as we've always had, and people are seeking from everywhere on Mother Earth. You know, it's such a sadness that many members of our human family do not realize we have entered runaway climate change. That we are facing in the near future complete melting of Greenland. Just that one incident, that one thing, is going to raise sea level by 4 meters, 15 feet at the minimum. We've been warning the human family over and over again to treat our mother better, because we understood that the treatment of women, which we can see in this world, has to change. It's directly connected to respect of Mother Earth. Because we know, and our Dakota people always say, the eagle of humanity has 2 wings. One is woman and one is man. Until both wings of that eagle have equal power and respect, the eagle of humanity will never fly as to its highest. It's destined to fly. So I would say, thank you, grandmothers. Thank you, mothers. Thank you, sisters. Thank you, granddaughters. Because we know, even if it's just coming into this world through the incredible birth process of our mothers, that in itself is a great gift. That by itself is enough to respect our mothers and respect womankind everywhere. Because this is our mother. Right here we stand upon. So it's so wonderful to be here and to see. I want to share a little story here by one of my grandfathers back in the late 60s when this whole kind of ecology thing came up. This whole relative of My father was born in the Standing Rock Reservation. My mother is a Chickasaw Nation from Oklahoma. I was born in a residential school, an Indian boarding school. And so he told me this story back in 1969. He said he was out visiting this elder of his that didn't speak English much, but he'd like to learn new English words. And so he began hearing this word ecology. It's an old word, but all of a sudden you heard people using the word ecology. He said, hey, Tahashi, he said, cousin, what is this they're talking about ecology? So he tried to explain to him as best he could in Dakota. And he said, he said, Tahashi, he said, we have these places now where people go to learn about life. So they go there, they learn to read these things on a piece of paper. And then they learn how to read those things, and they learn how to write about them, they learn how to talk about them. Finally, after 18, 20 years, they get a piece of paper. It says they're a doctor of life. They take all the best thinkers, best writers, best talkers, and they put them in these big places called laboratories. He kind of tried to explain it. He says, you got these things in there, you look into them, things are small, it makes them look big. Look off here, things that are far away, makes them look close. So you know what they found out? The old man kind of shook his head. They found out that everything's interrelated. They found out when you pollute the water, which all living things drink, you pollute all living things. They found out when you pollute, spent lots of money. They found out when you pollute the air, which all living things breathe, you pollute all living things. And then he turned to the old gentleman and he said, what do you think about that? He said, He said, I was wondering when they get around to that. I was wondering when they get around to that. Look what we do to our mother. We cut her hair where it shouldn't be cut. We take and drill holes inside of her and suck her blood out. Then we put things inside of her and blow her bones out. And he turned to my grandfather and he said, and what would happen if he did that to your mother? She'd die. And so Mitaki Epi, as the prophecies promised, after 500 years of preparation, of great pain, we are spiritually arising now. We're prepared ourselves to change the future of all what's happening on Mother Earth. I truly have believed this with all my heart and soul. That those prophecies of those prayers of our elders are always true. So here we are. And I want to give great thanksgiving to Maggie Hodson, to Robert Joseph. I had the great honor of attending and speaking at the first gathering we had of healing our spirits worldwide in Edmonton. And to come here now for the 8th gathering, to see the beautiful coming together of all the relatives, is great. Because we know that we are one human family, and the hurt of one is the hurt of all, and the honor of one is the honor of all. And I don't know how your challenges are in your area of the world, but I truly believe the only challenge we have, and once we overcome it completely, nothing can stand in our way, and that's sometimes our own disunity. That's the greatest challenge I see we have as Indigenous people, is our own disunity. Once we heal that, there's no power on heaven or earth that's going to stop us from fulfilling the vision we want for our children and grandchildren of a world in harmony, a world at peace, a world in which justice is the guiding principle. And to think that when these relatives came here and King George made that proclamation, Terra Nautilus, saying there was nobody lived here, just fauna, well, they're seeing a little different thing or two now, because you stood up and you're standing up. And there's many, I saw, we had this big gathering at Fields of Healing, many other Australians there, because they know that things aren't going too well here either by these same relatives who are running the show. So I see you're coming into positions now being of the leadership. And I thank you so much for that. You know, I think I'll just tell one more story, because And we're here to visit. We're here to get a chance to shake hands. And I've seen so many people I haven't seen some 20 years. But you know, the one thing we know, that each one of us sitting here today, everyone, Mother Earth, we are the spiritual representatives of all that have gone before us. They're with us. And we know, just like Chief Seattle said, and so many other spiritual leaders told us, there is no death, just a change of worlds. That's all. And here we go, around that medicine wheel. I look out here and I see, I ran into Gene a long time ago when he had black hair. And here we are. There's that black curly hair. There she is. You still have your black hair. It's beautiful. See, that's what it comes from living a good life. Mine is kind of scraggly and gray. But my grandmother, when she passed at 97, a little boy used to stay with her at the Standing Rock, where my father was born. And she told me the story about this old man, Good Elk. And, you know, during the time when we went through this Holocaust, literally, this was no less than cultural and physical genocide that happened here and happened to indigenous people everywhere on Mother Earth. But the nice thing is, we know there's no death, just a change of worlds. And so there's this beautiful grandfather. And kind of people had forgot him. But my grandmother used to like to take care of him. She wasn't a real close relative. And so this one day she came and she looked and she saw he had no clothes. Kind of people had forgotten him. So she went down to Mobridge, South Dakota, a little town off the Standing Rock Reservation. She found this big suit of clothes on the top shelf that nobody else could wear because he was so tall and big. So she got it, and she always paused and she said, I got a really good bargain. And she said she brought it back to him. And then she looked down, and his shoes were all worn out. He were living in such poverty. And she started to cry. And she saw this beautiful grandfather with his toes sticking out, his broken old shoes. And he smiled, he said, you know, Taco Jaw, granddaughter, don't even worry about that. He said, when it comes time to go home, he said, so many of our loved ones have walked that path before me, they made the path kind of soft. I'm just going to take off these old shoes. I'm going to walk across barefoot. Nice, soft path. I'm going to hear my old friends singing. I'm going to go sit with them. I'm going to sing you live a long life, and she did till 97. I'm going to sing till you see your grandchildren stand up again. Because Mitaki Epi, we know that physical surrender does not equal spiritual surrender. And we have never, ever spiritually surrendered, ever. And I can especially see it here in Australia, where the indigenous people here, despite being called fauna of all things, but you see, this is the insanity of what greed and materialism does to people. It's insanity, but you have not given up. Because we know that we are the spiritual representatives of all that have gone before us. And so I really, with all my heart, give thanksgiving that you have kept your culture alive for all these thousands and thousands of years. And I'm happy to see that finally the world is waking up to the fact that the oldest living culture in the world is right here. Right here we are, right here in this place. And to see all these representative tribes and nations coming here, joining together. And once we all come together, we can get rid of this backbiting, gossip, disunity, and come together. And because really, that wasn't our way. That's something that was brought here. That's the primary tool of the oppressor throughout history, not just the last 500 years, is to divide and conquer. And as long as we continue to do this, as long as we continue not to realize that each human being, it's a beautiful prayer, I love it, says this, O children of spirit, my first counsel is this, possess a pure, kindly, and radiant heart, that yours may be a sovereignty, ancient, imperishable, and everlasting. That's who we are. We're sovereignties, ancient, imperishable, and everlasting. Each and every one of us. Each and every one of us. So thank you so very much I look forward to shaking hands. I had a beautiful sister over here. Shake hands, put a little bit of yellow. Right there you are. Thank you. It gave me good strength. That great tea. So I thank you. I wish you a great gathering and enjoy. How mi chante washtelo, shuk mano he meado, chunupa sapa he meado, how mi chante washte. Hope. Thank you.